to ask for all the different things that MSDE has to do and that the state superintendent is tasked to do with these 24 very diverse school systems has to do with not just checking a box on the things that need to get done, but figuring out what needs to happen to go above and beyond for Maryland students, families, teachers, and administrators, because we are in a position in history where we cannot afford anything less. And it requires outside the box thinking. It can't just be the same old, same old. So taking that forward and doing an audit of what is and is not working inside the department would be what I would say the new superintendent must do within the first 3 years. Taking feedback from the subject matter experts within the department to figure out what should be changed in order to further meet MSDE's goals and objectives and to support our 24 different school systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next is speaker number 3, Guy Stevens. Can you unmute yourself?
Yep, I am unmuted. So good evening. My name's Guy Stevens. I'm the father of 2 children that attend schools in the state of Maryland. I'm also the founder and executive director of the Alliance Against Seclusion and Restraint. I started that organization 2 years ago after my son was inappropriately restrained and secluded and traumatized in a Maryland public school. Restraint and seclusion are outdated crisis management techniques. The practices disproportionately are used on children with disabilities as well as Black and brown children. And in advocating for change in Maryland schools, I've had the opportunity to communicate with the current superintendent and staff from the Maryland State Department of Education and wanted to provide some of my insights based on that. So looking at the questions about characteristics and qualification, there are 3 characteristics that I've listed here. One is proven leadership. The next superintendent should be a proven leader, one that's able to inspire and galvanize the State Department of Education. A leader that can break down barriers between the various offices and divisions, and a leader that can create a unified vision and a cohesive organization that supports the needs of all children and families in the state. The next leader needs to be an effective communicator, and the next superintendent should be an effective communicator that supports strong internal and external communications. A critical part of communications is the ability to listen. The next superintendent needs to be a skilled and thoughtful listener and should value community input. As an effective communicator, the next superintendent should support a culture that is transparent and accountable to public information requests. We also need an inspirational advocate. The next superintendent should be an inspirational advocate for all of Maryland's children and families. We look at issues that are impacting the children in Maryland schools. We see that there are issues that disproportionately impact children with disabilities as well as Black and brown children. The disproportionate use of restraint, seclusion, suspension, expulsions must be addressed. We need an inspirational advocate who will work tirelessly to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline. In terms of challenges, one of the greatest challenges facing the next superintendent will be bringing all our children back into classrooms across the state and assessing the impact that virtual education has had on our children. The next superintendent will need to provide leadership to overcome the challenges, and additionally will need to consider the needs of children with individual education plans to determine a process for compensatory services. Additionally, we must consider the impact the global pandemic has had on our children, families, and educators. We've all been through the trauma of this pandemic together. It's changed the lives in so many different ways. We've lost friends and family members. We've got to consider the impact that the trauma has had and how that might affect children and staff as they return to the classroom. We might see an increase in distress behavior in our classroom. It's a critical time to consider the importance of trauma-informed approaches for students, teachers, and staff. And what must be accomplished? The next superintendent must end the school-to-prison pipeline and the use of restraint and seclusion in the Maryland state schools. We need to work towards promoting equity and inclusion in our schools. And I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak tonight and share my viewpoints. I certainly welcome the engagement, and I think community engagement is critical to moving forward.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, on to speaker number 4, Theodora Scarato. There you are.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Theodora Scarato. I'm Executive Director of Environmental Health. We're a scientific think tank focused on avoidable, preventable environmental health risks. And the next challenge that the superintendent faces that I feel is of utmost importance is the issue of environmental pollution in classrooms across the state, from lead to pesticides to wireless electromagnetic radiation, which I'm going to focus on today. The Maryland State Children's Environmental Health and Protection Advisory Council and the New Hampshire State Commission on 5G have recommended replacing the wireless networks in schools with wired technology and addressing the growing exposure to cell phone radiation. Why? Because there is an ever-growing body of published science linking wireless. I'm talking about Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phones, wireless projectors, cell towers, 5G, smartwatches, earbuds, and everything wireless with harmful effects. Sorry, let me just shut that my computer second phone. The New York State Teacher Union passed a resolution on the hazards of wireless radiation emissions and recommended best practices for wired Ethernet connections. The United Educators of San Francisco passed a resolution calling for the California Department of Public Health recommendations on cell phones, explaining how to reduce cell phone radiation, that be posted on every classroom so that students, teachers, and staff can be educated and aware that cell phones emit radiation and how to reduce exposure to cell phone radiation. The next superintendent must take bold action to protect children and the entire community in this issue, which most people are not aware of because, as a Harvard Press book called Captured Agency detailed, there is so much money related to cell phones and wireless that, just like lead and asbestos and tobacco, cigarette smoke, the PR machines move swiftly and they are well funded with deep pockets. And so it seems like this issue is not proven, or that there's not a lot of science, or that it's not published, when in fact, or that the scientists who are working on it are fringe, when in fact there are hundreds of scientists who are calling to reduce exposure to wireless radiation in order to protect health. The next superintendent needs to be aware that there are studies that show pregnant women who use cell phones more heavily have been found to have newborns with biochemical changes to their blood and impaired fetal growth, and there has been associations with behavior problems in students. It will take leadership to take the necessary action, which has been recommended and for years now, and I have been going to the board for years on this issue. The recommendations are that students have hardware and software that are hardwired, not wireless, and that there is education for students, teachers, and staff on how to reduce exposure to cell phones, Wi-Fi, how to choose products which don't have radio frequency radiation.
Thank you. I apologize. Your time is up. Sorry about that.
Oh, I didn't hear the 1 minute. I'm sorry.
I sorry about that.
Thank you very much. So I hope that the next superintendent will have courage and leadership on these issues. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next is Alexander Pappas. I don't see them on the screen. I don't know who Apple's iPad is. Is that, if you could rename yourself?
Oh, I didn't hear the 1 minute. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. So I hope
so is Alexander Pappas on the line or in the meeting with us? No? All right, we'll move on to speaker number 6, Mallory LaFawn. Are you with us? No? All right. Speaker number 7 is Teresa Dudley. Are you with us? And then we'll move on then to speaker number 8, Derek Saavedra. I'll ask you to unmute. Speaker number 7, Teresa Dudley.
All right, can you hear me?
We can.
Well, thank you, Ms. Holly, again for inviting me and registering me very, very quickly. Again, I'm Dr. Derek Saavedra. I am assistant principal of North Dorchester High School in Dorchester County. However, I also live in Calvert County, so I have a perspective in two counties of the 24. And initially, my question in observing everything that happened in both Calvert County and Dorchester is what I would want from the superintendent is to be more specific on their vision to ensure that there will be equity and equality for all Maryland students in regard to technology, as well as the acquisition to the technology in order for students to access their educational curriculum in the digital world. I was fortunate or unfortunate to see that Dorchester ran out of laptops for all their students, as well as Calvert County. Now, Calvert County is considered, I guess, the third or the fourth richest county, and they couldn't supply all laptops and hotspots to their students. We were told as a district, as we were trying to get monies to buy laptops and hotspots for our students, was to have the student parents drive their car to the parking lot and access hotspots in our internet system in the school. So for a digital world, that put a taxing on a lot of individuals, and I just want the next superintendent to be aware, and I think Ms. Webster alluded to it. Well, first of all, everybody alluded to it, is that there's different counties, different makeup for each county. It's rural, suburban, city-like. If we go to Charles County, Waldorf, it's grown into a city there. So it's no longer suburban. To access and be able to understand all the different people, all the different areas.
1 minute.
In 24 counties. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate everybody's opinions.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I guess I'll go back through the list to see if anyone else has joined us. We're still looking for Alexander Pappas. Mallory LaFawn. And then Teresa Dudley. Well, those that weren't able to join us today, we certainly hope there are 2 more forums that are taking place. The next one is January 5th. And the third one will take place January 7th, both of which will be from the same time, 6 to 7:30 p.m. We hope that you'll register for those forums to provide feedback. Also, the survey is now live, so if you go to where you registered, the link to the survey is at the top of that page. I think, I'm not sure if it's on the Maryland State Department of Education site yet, but if it's not, I'm sure it will be posted soon. So we certainly are encouraging you to take the time to complete the survey. You'll be able to provide a lot of additional information through completing that as well. Clarence, any other closing remarks? Do I have to ask you to unmute?
Just want to again thank everyone for coming out. We really appreciate the comments. Please also complete the survey and encourage your friends and family to also that are in Maryland to complete the survey, because we take this information very seriously. Your input will help us formulate our search criteria. We're going to be in a very competitive environment. We expect there to be a number of competing states looking for superintendents. So the more we can share with them about Maryland and engage them and get them excited about Maryland and being able to demonstrate that the people in the state of Maryland, the citizens, are interested and are very supportive of education. Again, thank you very much. Happy holidays. Have a safe and enjoyable and happy holiday with your family.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Happy holidays.